This is the Thor engine process. It's a project I've been working on for some years, and what we'll show you first is the making of the piston. Now before I start, the first piece of advice I'll give you is don't listen to any advice that I give you. Go and find out for yourself, make your own decisions. Firstly, we'll show you the original piston. And this is a cast iron piston, not an aluminium piston. And as you can see, it's got lots of features inside which have to be replicated. It also has very interesting rings which are cast iron and have an interesting gap in the middle. First thing we do is to take a copy of the inside of this piston and make this pattern. This is not as easy as it looks, because these bosses have an undercut in the centre, so you can't just fill it up with a resin and pull it out because it won't come out, it'll be stuck for good. So it has to be made in 3 pieces. So we make a piece in that section, another piece in that section, have a piece that we can pull out in the middle so we can collapse those and pull them out. Then all that has to be put together to make this. So this is made in multiple pieces. So there's 2 sides and a core. So why are we making this? Well, we need to make that so we can make a thing called a core mould. And this is the core mould. Core mould is there to make a sand mould that looks like that. So this part fits in there like so. So once we've made the core mould, we make the outside mould. Now the core mould looks like this, but it's made in sand and it fits in behind the void that this part makes. So this is the outside of the piston, and it has, as you can see, it has a shape and an angle on it for clearance, so that when this is all filled up with sand and resin, that you can slide the whole thing out. And we've got handles on here so that the moulder can just lift it off and leaves a sand mould with a hole in it that looks like that. Then we take the core, put that in, and fix the core to the inside of that. The next process is the gate runners. So these fit on the bottom, they go on the back of this, that way. And this part here is the sprue where the liquid cast iron runs down into the bottom of that, which is this way around, fills up, runs up these sides, fills this up, and these parts here are the risers and also the vents. So that's how that process works. Now we end up with something that looks like this. This is what's left after I've cut the piston off. But you can see the shape here, and this part which I've already cut out. This is the other part. This is another one that the moulder's made, and the moulder's made this in 2 opposite ways just to see which way worked best. They both worked. This part here is actually the exhaust valve guide, and it's cast iron as well. So we make the 2 in one section, cut that off, put it in the lathe and lathe it up to fit. And this is the valve guide here that fits into the cylinder. So that's all done, that all works. And this is the result. So this is the original, this is the new one. I've yet to drill through the boss for the gudgeon pin, or if you're an American, the wrist pin. It also has screws that go in these sections here to hold a very interesting gudgeon or wrist pin. This pin doesn't have clips on the outside, it has tapered pins, and it goes in like so, and screws sit on top of the tapered pins to retain the pins. So it's got little screws that go on the top. Very interesting old process. Now, the wonderful thing about cast iron pistons is that you can have a very close clearance of something like 1.5 thou. So they were very good in their day and very efficient, as long as you didn't rev the engine too much. They're good for low speed, torquey engines, but not much good for high engine speeds and horsepower. So that's the process of making the pistons. We'll go on later on to show you other bits about the engine. This engine here is a 1912-13 engine, and it's slightly different from the 1916 Thor that I'm redoing, in that the 1916 Thor has a covering, a total covered inlet valve system and rocker, whereas the old ones just had exposed rockers. So it's one of the very earliest engines that I know of that's got enclosed rockers instead of open rockers. This, interesting enough, is what I started with. That's the original Thor cylinder. It's the rear cylinder, and not in the best of conditions. This is the 1916 Thor that I started with. The crankcase is totally unusable. It's cracked, damaged. The whole thing on the front here, on the timing cover, has been completely ruined with a grinder. I don't know what they did or how they did it or why they did it, but it's totally destroyed. So hence the reason we're starting from scratch and making new cylinders and making a new crankcase and pistons, and eventually all the rest of it inside. We have here a cutaway of the first casting, and that came out spot on. In the next video we'll show you the castings and the original patterns that I made, or had made, to do the cylinders and the crankcases. So that'll be it for now. We'll see you in the next video.